The alien vessels descended through Earth's atmosphere like polished shards of silver light. Their formation was immaculate, symmetrical, deliberate, everything about it declared control. To the people of Earth watching from below, it was both mesmerizing and unsettling. For the first time, humanity wasn't alone. And for the first time, it was being judged. The Galactic Concord called it a diplomatic mission, but no one on the United Diplomatic Council was naive enough to believe it. The Concord didn't send emissaries to negotiate, they sent them to instruct. To teach lesser species how to obey. Still, Earth received them with courtesy. Cameras broadcast every moment as the alien envoys stepped onto the landing platform, tall, pale forms wrapped in radiant fabric, their eyes glimmering like polished metal. The crowd went silent. High Envoy Zaldar of the Concord spoke first, his translator rendering his voice smooth and condescending. "We come not as conquerors," he declared, "but as guardians of order. Your species has reached the threshold of interstellar travel. It is customary that we offer protection and inclusion within the Concord to prevent unfortunate misunderstandings." The UDC chairwoman smiled with practiced diplomacy. "We appreciate your concern," she replied. "Humanity seeks peaceful coexistence." Zaldar's expression flickered, just briefly, with satisfaction. To him, that was the first sign of submission. He didn't notice Admiral Reyes at the far end of the chamber, silent, his gaze fixed not on the aliens but on the screen embedded in his wrist. A coded message blinked once. "Project Vigilant Dawn, status, ready." He exhaled through his nose, barely a twitch of amusement. The negotiation continued for hours. The aliens presented their proposal, a treaty of integration. Humanity would gain access to certain technologies, under supervision of course, and contribute resources to the Concord's defense fleets. In return, Earth would be classified as a developing protectorate. It was an insult wrapped in silk. Reyes watched the delegates around him. Some faces showed hesitation, others, quiet anger. He admired how far they'd come, united nations that had once threatened each other with annihilation now standing as one before outsiders. The illusion of fragility was perfect. Let the aliens see what they expected to see. That night, the alien delegation returned to orbit, satisfied. Their flagship reported routine observations, moderate industrial activity, weak orbital defenses, a single fusion-powered station in lunar orbit. No sign of advanced warcraft. To Zaldar, it was proof that the humans were bluffing when they'd claimed parity. In the observation deck of his ship, he spoke to his aide. "They are curious creatures, brash, emotional, self-divided. They will fold quickly once the treaty is signed." The aide nodded. "Should we begin preparations for integration oversight?" "Soon," Zaldar said. "First, they must believe we offer them mercy." He turned toward the blue orb below. "Then, they will beg for it." Back on Earth, Admiral Reyes stood at the edge of the Atlantic Council Hall, looking out the window toward the stars. The lights of New York shimmered below him. Somewhere beyond that skyline, buried beneath classified layers of lunar dust and orbital secrecy, an engine hummed with restrained power. Humanity's quiet answer to arrogance. He touched the communicator in his ear. "Inform command," he said softly. "The guests have arrived. Let them get comfortable." "Yes, Admiral." He ended the call, allowing himself a rare smile. The aliens thought Earth was stalling out of fear. They thought humanity was a scattered child standing before a parent. They had no idea the sky was about to change. The United Diplomatic Council gathered in silence. The alien proposal sat in holographic projection above the table, its clauses dripping with condescension. Protectorate, supervised development, limited sovereignty. Every word was designed to make humanity small. Some delegates wanted to protest immediately, others whispered about caution. Admiral Reyes watched them all, waiting. Then he said, calm but final, "Let them think we're uncertain. The illusion is our shield." No one argued. The room understood. Orbiting above, the alien envoys continued their observations, logging industrial statistics and social metrics. Their reports to the Concorde painted a picture of weakness. Their nations are barely cohesive, Zaldar transmitted. A unified front only on paper. They have potential but lack the refinement for autonomy. His staff nodded, their arrogance absolute. None noticed the anomalies beyond the lunar horizon, faint gravitational echoes their senses couldn't classify. Beneath the far side of the moon, a buried shipyard stirred. Massive hangar gates slid open in slow silence, venting frozen mist into the void. Engineers in exosuits moved with precision, guided by AI routines older than the current government. At the core of it all rested the UNS Vigilant Dawn. It dwarfed the facilities that built it, black armor plates, reactor veins glowing dimly beneath the surface. Entire districts fit within its interior. It was the culmination of every secret program humanity had ever hidden. Reyes reviewed the readiness reports from his terminal. Life support green. Weapons offline but primed. Warp anchor stable. The ship's gravitational wake was already being detected by alien sensors, but they lacked the data to comprehend it. To them, it was background noise. Reyes smiled again. Let them underestimate the noise, he muttered. The next morning, the Concorde delivered its ultimatum. Earth was given 48 hours to sign the integration accords. The message was delivered with elegance, but the threat was clear. Refusal will result in protective enforcement, Zaldar said during the final transmission, his tone almost paternal. We prefer peace. Compliance ensures your safety. The broadcast ended, leaving a cold echo in the council chamber. Reyes stood and addressed the UDC. They think they are dealing with children, he said. But children grow up fast when survival's on the line. Some of the representatives looked frightened, others resolved. There was no vote. The decision was mutual and silent. Humanity would not kneel. The Vigilant Dawn's launch sequence began beneath the moon's surface, unseen by any eye. The crew assembled in absolute silence. For months, they had waited for this moment, training in secret bases, away from their families and sunlight. When the engines awakened, even space seemed to tremble. In orbit, alien ships detected a faint distortion. Their instruments couldn't lock on. Gravitational interference, possibly from the planet's field, one technician said. Zaldar dismissed it without thought. He focused instead on the pending treaty signing and the pride that came with it. The humans will sign, he said. They always do. On Earth, Reyes received a final coded message, Dawn Rising Sequence, confirmed. He closed the device and looked toward the dark sky. He thought of all the centuries humanity had spent fighting itself, wasting brilliance on borders and pride. Now, united under a single necessity, they had become something new, something dangerous. Time's up, he whispered. As night fell across the Atlantic, the air above the ocean shimmered faintly, invisible to the naked eye. Gravity rippled. Birds took flight in panic. Somewhere beyond Luna's far side, titanic engines began to move, dragging the weight of a planet's will behind them. The aliens didn't yet know it, but the era of treating humanity as children was over. The dawn was coming, and it would rise in silence. The alien flagship hung in low orbit, its diplomats preparing their final declaration. Zaldar rehearsed the closing words of Earth's integration, already imagining the commendations he'd receive. His aide approached, tense. Sir, long-range sensors are returning distorted readings from lunar space. The signal strength is irregular. Zaldar frowned. Interference from their satellites. Ignore it. Then the ship trembled. Alarms blared, hull sensors flared white, and gravitational readings spiked beyond measurable limits. Every console flickered as something enormous displaced the void itself. The stars above Earth twisted, light bending as though the sky itself had cracked open. From that distortion emerged a shadow the size of a continent, sleek, black, and radiant with molten veins of blue. The UNS Vigilant Dawn dropped out of warp with a thunderclap of displaced gravity, its hull glinting like liquid metal. The ship's wake vaporized micrometeors. Radio channels across the planet went silent. Even the clouds broke apart beneath its presence, revealing the full curve of its armor as it settled into geosynchronous orbit. Every alien sensor overloaded. Zaldar's crew scrambled, shouting data that made no sense. Energy output, off scale. Mass signature, impossible. That's not a cruiser, it's a moving singularity. The flagship's shields flared instinctively, but the Dawn wasn't aiming weapons. It didn't have to. Its existence was the message. Then the transmission came, clear and calm. Admiral Reyes's voice filled every frequency. To the representatives of the Galactic Concord, Earth acknowledges your message of peace. The UNS Vigilant Dawn will escort your fleet beyond orbit once discussions conclude. You are free to transmit your revised terms. His tone carried no malice, only certainty. Silence followed. The alien envoys stared at the hologram of Earth, its oceans reflecting the glow of the ship above. They understood now, this wasn't a desperate civilization clinging to survival. It was a species that had learned, adapted, unified. One that had built a weapon not to conquer, but to ensure no one could ever conquer them again. Zaldar felt the weight of realization crush his pride. He had walked among them as a superior, yet this vessel, this human creation, defied even the Concord's highest engineering. They achieved this without our aid, his aide whispered. How? Reyes's voice returned once more, measured, final. Earth seeks allies, not masters. The Vigilant Dawn will remain in orbit until your departure. On every continent, humanity looked up at the new star in the sky, a bright, defiant presence that cast its reflection across oceans and cities alike. Children pointed. Soldiers saluted. Scientists wept. The message was wordless but absolute. Humanity had entered the galactic stage, and it would kneel to no one. Aboard the alien ship, Zaldar stood motionless. Transmit to High Command, he ordered softly. His voice, once so assured, trembled. First contact update, the humans are not to be trifled with. His aide hesitated. Do we withdraw, sir? Zaldar looked out the viewport one last time. The Vigilant Dawn hung above Earth like a god of steel and fire. Yes, he said quietly. While we still can. Engines flared across the alien fleet as it broke orbit, each vessel distancing itself from the shadow that had shaken their certainty. On Earth, the Dawn remained still, a silent sentinel against the darkness. Humanity had spoken, not with words, but with presence. The alien fleet withdrew beyond orbit, engines burning pale trails into the dark. They didn't announce retreat, they simply vanished, leaving silence in their wake. On Earth, there were no parades, no speeches. Humanity didn't cheer, it simply exhaled. The Vigilant Dawn drifted above the planet like a monument, vast and unmoving, its presence both comforting and terrifying. It had done nothing more than exist, yet that had been enough to change everything. Across the globe, people looked to the sky. Farmers in the fields paused to watch the faint glint of the warship pass overhead. In city streets, children pointed upward, whispering stories that parents would later call myths. For once, every person on Earth saw the same horizon and felt the same truth: they were no longer small. Humanity had stepped out of its cradle, and the galaxy had taken notice. Reports spread through the Galactic Concord. Whispers in alien courts spoke of the humans, the world that built a Titan in secret. Some called it impossible, others called it terrifying. Within the Concord's inner chamber, counselors debated whether to befriend or contain them. No one dared suggest war. The name Vigilant Dawn entered their archives as both a warning and a promise. Admiral Reyes stood in the Dawn's command deck, the curve of Earth reflected in the viewport. He wasn't smiling. Power didn't bring joy, it brought responsibility. They'll be back, his aide said quietly. Different faces, different terms. Reyes nodded. Then they'll find us ready. The warship remained on station, its sensors watching the void. The narrator's voice would carry the moment like an echo of pride. Humanity hadn't conquered, it had earned its place through unity and restraint. It had shown strength not by firing weapons, but by holding them steady. The aliens had arrived to teach submission, and left having learned respect. Across the stars, new civilizations marked their charts differently. The Sol system was no longer an unclaimed corner of the galaxy. It was territory watched by the ship that darkened a planet's sky. The Vigilant Dawn became legend before it fired a single shot. Reyes turned from the viewport. "Stand down to alert status," he ordered. "Keep our eyes open." The hum of the engines faded to a low vibration, steady and calm. Humanity had no empire, no colonies, no dominion beyond its world. But it had will, and that, more than any weapon, was enough. As dawn broke across the Atlantic, sunlight reached the ship's hull and scattered like a million mirrors, casting a faint glow across the clouds below. For an instant, the entire ocean shimmered with light. From orbit, it looked as though the world itself was waking. The final broadcast from the Vigilant Dawn was brief and deliberate. "To all who hear this transmission," Reyes said, his voice carried across the stars, "humanity stands ready, not for war, but for peace on equal ground." No one answered. They didn't have to. The message had already reshaped the galaxy. The humans had arrived, not as conquerors, not as servants, but as equals among giants. And above their world, the Titan watched in silence, patient and eternal, as the universe finally learned its lesson: humanity bows to no one.